If you're an adult around my age, you may be familiar with Fairly Your Parents. It's a cartoon show, and they had a rule book, The Rules, and all of coaching philosophies, admin policies, all of that sort of stuff. There are rules that you need to follow, and what I feel like I'm doing is sort of getting the rule book and thrown out the window, kind of like making it up. Now, don't get me wrong, there are loads of things I still need to follow, but a coaching philosophy, the way that it's described in the coaching literature, doesn't really seem to be shown on websites or Facebook pages of clubs, which I find interesting, so I figured let's actually talk about the coaching philosophy. Eastbourne Trampoline on the website, once I've made the website, will have my coaching philosophy, the scenarios, the philosophy, the ideas, the psychology, the research, the science that I'm using to justify my practice. Instead of it being something that the coaches sort of know or kind of feel, I want to actually express what it is on the site, which means I need to be able to articulate what it is that I'm doing, the behaviors, the decisions, everything that I choose to do and we as a coaching team choose to do will be shared for parents, performers, athletes, individuals, any sort of person looking at it can see, okay, this is the coaching philosophy. Do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? And then we have a conversation about it. The reason I want to do this is because when I talk to coaches, coaches say they are inclusive. And as I mentioned previously, inclusion sometimes requires exclusion because in order to include some people that don't want to be working with, say, women that don't want to work with men, you would need to exclude men from the session to be inclusive of those individuals. Yet I don't see any of this discussed either through coaches, through interactions, or seen inside of practice either. And from my experience being half deaf, if I go to a club, I don't want to, as a child, want to say, oh, can those people go over there or can you all move over here? I don't want to do that as a child. So maybe, just an idea, as coaches, as educators, developers, we say up front, we're doing this because of this reason. Will this work? I don't know, but there are potential issues with throwing the rule book out a little bit. For context, for those unfamiliar with trampoline clubs, trampoline sports, and the way that sports clubs work, in order to be a sports club, you need to be a company of some sort if people are going to pay for the service. So you need to apply to be a company. Applying to be a company, is that a not-for-profit company or a for-profit company? For context, I'm going for a company by guarantee, which is not for profit. And as part of the company, I have directors and trustees, part of the guarantee bit, to help me do things. So it's not just me 100% in control, it is shared among 3-4 other people. Once that's sorted, you then have a bank account with 2 different signatures that go to the company, and that's where people would pay into, either actually individuals that are paying for a session or for funding for money to go directed into the business company account. Of course, that is where you then pay for the venue, pay for any coaching costs or any other costs that come out for the company. Now, where this relates to all the coaching philosophy is insurance. For trampoline, it's an extreme sport, so there's higher insurance compared to different sports. And most trampoline clubs in Britain go through British Gymnastics. That's the national governing body. But British Gymnastics obviously requires you to be qualified, level 1, level 2, etc. So you do those courses, you get your safeguarding, you do the rest of it. But if you're doing skills that are slightly different, you wouldn't be covered by British Gymnastics. And obviously this can be a problem because if British Gymnastics are using a best technique coaching philosophy in the way that they're going to do their courses and say, you need to coach like this, otherwise you're not insured, well, now the coaching philosophy that I may be using might not cover insurance for the activities that people are doing, which I still need to confirm with British Gymnastics what philosophy they would encourage, which ones they would discourage. Obviously landing on someone's head or deliberately falling off, not good practice. But I've seen from my experience a lot of coaches doing certain things, and I don't know whether it's insurance based or whether it's their coaching philosophy. Practical example here, if I've got someone that comes in for a session, I've seen them do a tuckback somersault on a garden trampoline, they're on a less bouncy trampoline in the session. If I haven't seen them do a seat landing, a front landing, a back landing, a tuck, pike straddle, half twist, but I still let them do a somersault, that would match up with my coaching philosophy because I've seen their ability to move. However, traditional British Gymnastics would say, well, actually, you kind of need to go through these basic fundamental skills. Now, I don't know how rigid that is when it comes to insurance, but it's certainly a coaching philosophy that could conflict with insurance. Then in a similar way, if there are skills that aren't in British gymnastics, sort of in the list of things like a side somersault or a kaboom, for those unfamiliar, they're just different skills you can do on a trampoline. If that's not on your level 1 qualification or level 2.3 qualification, then you're not covered by insurance. Which, if that's unclear, if they hurt themselves doing those skills, then you're not insured, and then money. Now, there are alternative places you could go through insurance. Gymnastics Britannia and IGA are the two that I'm thinking about, but if you go insurance with them and then you go to a British Gymnastics sanctioned competition, you're now not insured because British Gymnastics want you to be insured under British Gymnastics. Understandably, because national governing body wants control and understanding of what's going on. And this brings coaching philosophy from this abstract, oh, you're going to use learning styles or not use learning styles, that's fairly abstract, down to earth in real practice. Because if I'm coaching in a way that the insurance companies won't cover, well, now I can't coach in that way. Or I could coach in that way, but I then have to risk not being insured because British Gymnastics don't recognise it as proper or safe. Now, just to be clear, I don't know whether British Gymnastics can say, no, you're not insured to teach those things, or what I'm not insured to teach under level 1, level 2, 2.1, blah, 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 blah. But because it's not clear, and because coaching philosophy seems a bit abstract in the way that all of the other clubs describe it and do it in practice, I don't know. And I think this relates to recent conversations on the Talent Equation podcast from Stuart Armstrong talking about broken coach education. Now, I'll probably discuss those in future videos, but essentially he's saying that why would coaches move up the coaching ladder if they don't need to or they don't want to? And so there's a leaky bucket, as it were. Coaches just drop out because their individuals, like their children, have stopped, or there's no reason for them to keep going, so we bring new coaches in. How do we retain the coaches? In trampoline, if coaches want to coach different skills that aren't on the criteria, or they want to coach something slightly different, or they don't want to coach the big skills, there's nowhere for them to go. If you want to coach a freestyle trampolinist, there's no British Gymnastics course to do that. And you might not be insured. Again, I don't know. But on the other side of that, if you don't want to teach somersaults and just want to help recreational, there's no reason for you to do a course to do coach education. But coach education isn't just teach big skills. It's also understanding the coaching philosophy that you have, the decisions you make, the interactions you have with individuals, which is where you can have a level 1 coach that I would argue is more efficient at coaching than a level 4 or 5. Just because you've got a level 5 doesn't mean you're a more effective coach. And this is really interesting for me when it comes to the coaching philosophy of a club, which again, as you can imagine, comes back to money. If you're paying coaches, you pay a level 1, say £12 an hour, that's just above minimum wage, and you pay a level 5, say £20 an hour. But the level 1 is more competent than the level 5. Do you increase the level 1's wage? Do you decrease the level 5 wage? Like, how do you navigate that? I don't have an answer, but these are the questions that I'm trying to find answers to for this community that I'm trying to create with Eastbourne Trampoline. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, let me know in the comment section below, because I'm just opening up for discussion.